All right, so today we're going on a pretty incredible journey. It's a story about someone who chased ambition so hard they almost lost themselves, and then had to unmake everything to find what was really there underneath. Let's get into it. So let's start with this question because it really hits home. When did the decent score become a death sentence for your piece? Wow. I mean, think about that. For so many of us, that chase for success starts super early, right? But what's the real cost? This one question, it basically kicks off a whole decade of struggle, a battle for who he is and for his own sanity. Okay, so section 1, the tier 1 trap. This is really where the story kicks off, right where his childhood pretty much ends. It's all about how this intense pressure from society, this new high-stakes world he's thrown into, starts to build a whole new identity for him, an identity he barely even recognizes. And the change it's just night and day. Look at this. Before, he was this child of play, mischievous, grounded, playing out in the sun. And after, he becomes a product of the factory, a hollow vessel with a fancy label, living under fluorescent lights, a total stranger to himself. It's like he was put on a conveyor belt and came out a completely different person. In that big victory, getting into a top-tier college, it turned out to be a Trojan horse. It wasn't the win he expected. Instead, it just brought this crushing feeling of being an outsider, of not fitting in, not having the right background, or, as he puts it, the right fur. And to cope with that friction, that feeling of not belonging, he started using substances to numb it all. So, after college, you'd think things might get easier, right? Nope, the struggle just ramps up. This is where he enters what he calls his 10-year ghost phase, a brutal, decade-long quest to pass the civil services exam. Think about that. 10 years, an entire decade of his life chasing just one thing, a rank. That's it. He poured everything into this single goal because he believed deep down that without that status, he was basically invisible, a ghost. And after all that time, what did he have to show for it? 7 failures. 7 times he got right to the edge and 7 times he fell. I mean, the persistence is incredible. You have to give him that. But wow. The cost of taking those hits year after year, it's just immense. And pretty soon, all that pressure inside his head started to break his body. The first few years, sure, it was all about ambition, the itch for status. But then, around year 6, his body just starts to fight back. First, tinnitus, that constant high-pitched ringing in his ears. Then it got worse. Misophonia set in, where even the smallest sound, like a spoon clinking against a plate, felt like a physical attack. He wasn't just studying anymore. He was, as he says, a frayed wire. It's funny how sometimes hitting absolute rock bottom is the only way to find a way out. After that decade of just relentless struggle, he's completely exhausted. And in that exhaustion, something unexpected happens. He gets his first real glimpse of peace. So, through meditation, he has this massive breakthrough. He finds what he calls the center. And this is absolutely key. He realizes, I am not my thoughts. I am not my failures. I am not even my suffering. I am the thing that's aware of all of that. I'm the silent observer holding the telescope, just watching it all go by. And that single realization changes everything. He understood that letting go isn't something you do. It's just realizing what's already true. Peace wasn't a prize to be won. It was already there, underneath all the noise. So he lets go. He finds peace, he gets married, and for a little while there, it really felt like the war was finally over. But, well, you know how these things go. That peace, it was fragile. The pressures of the world, what he calls the forest, they don't just disappear. And that old, restless, ambitious part of him, the monkey mind, was waiting in the wings, ready for a comeback. Yeah, society looked at him, saw he was calm and content, and basically called it waste. People just couldn't get it. They didn't see peace as a victory. They saw it as him throwing away his potential. And that pressure just built and built, pushing him to go for the exams just one more time. And sure enough, it woke the monkey right back up. So he caves. He agrees to try again. But this time, he thinks he has a secret weapon, peace. And this is where it all goes wrong. His plan is to use meditation and his newfound calm as a tool to pass the exam. He's literally trying to weaponize his own inner peace to achieve a goal. And that, right there, is the fatal flaw. You just can't do that. You cannot use the witness, that silent, calm observer, to serve the monkey, the part of you that's always grasping and wanting more. The second he tried, everything came flooding back. The sleep jerks, the trauma, the anxiety, and that noise in his head, it was louder than it had ever been. So, that strategy completely backfires. His own strength fails him again, and this leads to another huge shift. But this time, it's different. It's not about trying to control his mind or master himself. It's about surrender. It's about giving himself over to something way, way bigger than his own ego. His inspiration actually came from the story of Lord Hanuman, this incredibly powerful being whose greatest strength was his devotion as a selfless servant. So he completely changes his approach. He stops trying to be the master of his destiny and starts thinking of himself as a servant of the truth. And with that one change in perspective, suddenly failure wasn't personal anymore. It wasn't his failure. It just was. And this is what leads him to where he is now, this final state of being. It's a new kind of fearlessness. But it's not the kind of fearlessness you get from being tough or strong. No, it's something totally different. It comes from a whole new understanding of who or what he even is. I mean, just think about how an anxious mind works, right? That monkey mind. It's just a constant stream of questions. Why me? When is this going to stop? Am I good enough? It just interrogates you 24/7. But here's the thing. The witness is questionless. It operates on a completely different level. It's just pure observation. It doesn't need answers because it's not asking any questions in the first place. It just watches. It sees what is, with zero judgment. He has a name for this state, witnessfulness. And it's a really important distinction from just mindfulness. With mindfulness, you're often trying to manage your thoughts. Here, it's like the mind just takes a back seat. There's only sight, only awareness. The anxiety, the noise, the struggle, they might still show up. But now, they're just weather. They're clouds passing through this huge, empty sky of your consciousness. And that is where this new fearlessness comes from. See, fear belongs to the ego, to the monkey. It's terrified of being destroyed. But if you realize you're not the monkey, you're the witness, the part of you that was never born and can never die, then what is there to be afraid of? What is there to defend? He's fearless, not because he's strong, but because the I that feels fear is, for all intents and purposes, absent. Which really leaves us with a pretty big question for ourselves, doesn't it? When you think about your own struggles, your own anxieties, your own failures, what are you identifying with? Do you think you are those struggles? Are you the clouds that are just temporarily passing by? Or are you the sky itself, the vast, unchanging space that holds everything? Because in the end, for him, after peeling back every single layer, the ambition, the failure, the identity he spent decades trying to build, what's left? It's not a successful man. It's not a rank. What remains is just a silent truth.